Hey everyone, and welcome to the Dota 2 Builds of the Week, the weekly series where I show you guys top 5 meta builds to help you get started with new heroes in Dota 2. As always, a link to my Twitch is down in the description below if you'd like to join the action live, as is a link to each of the builds we're discussing today. Moreover, if you'd like to support the series, smash the like button, because that's apparently all YouTube cares about. Anyways, today we're getting started with Juggernaut. Now, what's interesting about Juggernaut is he has been like a pub favorite for so long, and he kind of was like neglected in the pro scene for a long time, and now he's starting to get back. And in fact, he's one of the highest win rate carries in high MMR pubs and all throughout all MMRs. He's just really good. So today we're going to talk about how you play Juggernaut and generally what the overall skill build is. So here's the build, and the important thing to understand is that the most consistent thing, especially for low MMR players, is to take the Healing Ward at 2 and Blade Dance at 4. Some people like to switch them around. However, in the most common, or not the most common, but the most recent meta, especially with the nerfs to support salves, the ability to self-sustain with Healing Ward is super important. That's why you're taking it at level 2 and a value point in Blade Dance at level 4, because you want the crit chance, but you don't really rely on it, especially with your attack speed being so low. You're focusing in on Blade Fury. Now, in this particular build, and this is what most pros are doing, you are going double Slippers of Agility into double Iron Branch. The reason for the double Iron Branch is not only to give good stats, you can utilize the Iron Branches to tango, but also you can build a Magic Wand, which is very consistent in all games, especially at the pro level. Whether or not it's a good stick lane or not, they are building wands on almost every single hero. In fact, you almost wonder if wand's going to get nerfed at some point. Regardless, you are going into phase boots. Once you have phase boots, you are a major kill threat with Blade Fury. In fact, you might suggest that even with brown boots, you're a kill threat with Blade Fury. Now, while there's tons of arguments about whether or not you go Maelstrom or Battle Fury, currently it is much more common to do this build progression. Maelstrom into Manta. Now, the Manta in conjunction with Blade Fury makes you borderline invincible and kind of negates the necessity for a BKB, although BKB does have its place in some games. Manta into Aghanim's Shard, which is excellent because it allows you to basically, right click as a during Blade Fury, which you could do regardless, but now it allows Blade Fury to kind of scale better into the mid and late game because it utilizes your attack. And then you go Mjolnir into Basher, which once again, while you're Blade Furying. Now, one thing I should mention though, even if you don't have the Shard, it's important that you get used to right-clicking targets while you're Blade Furying, because you do technically auto-attack even if you don't have the Shard. So that's an important consideration. And then you have your Blink Dagger into Abyssal Blade and Swift Blink. Now, the extension to this is you can build a Aghanim's Scepter. This is a fantastic kind of like extension item for when you get a little far ahead, but regardless, this is how Juggernaut is currently being built. He's being built with a focus on Blade Fury sustainability and health in the late game, so you're taking the Blade Fury talents, that's why you're taking the Shard, and the items that really work well in conjunction with Blade Fury. But overall, he's an absolutely fantastic hero right now, one that has a consistently high win rate at all MMRs. If you've been watching any Pro Dota, you've noticed that Tiny has continued to be a very contested pick. This has been consistent all throughout TI10 till now, and what's interesting about Tiny is that he is a great drafting pick because, well, in pro games where you have Captain's Mode, he can be flexed in so many different positions. Although the carry version of Tiny isn't as popular as it once was, but you still do see it from time to time, the mid variant of Tiny is extremely popular, as is the position 4 variant. So today we're going to talk about the mid variant of position 2 Tiny and how it is currently being played because it's really unique. So the first thing to note is that in this build I do include the carry build progression too, because this is like a core guide, so to speak. So whether you're playing mid or core, it depends on what position you're in. So for mid, which is what our focus is today, you are rushing an early bottle. Now what's interesting is that the build has actually changed. Prior you were focusing more on the skilling of tree grab, and you can still do that if you're building carry. For mid, however, it's important you take a value point in tree grab, and then you're focusing on avalanche and toss. You actually are playing a more traditional like Tiny Airlines build, where you want to utilize the avalanche toss combination to do an incredible amount of damage. And what's interesting about this is that the build does revolve around that combination, going from bottle to power treads into a blink dagger to allow you to be a fearsome ganker. Once you get your blink dagger, you literally just roam around utilizing these two abilities and just gank and destroy the side lanes. You are building an Echo Saber, which he absolutely needs. And then what you're doing is, this is the interesting part of the mid build, it's building an Aghanim Scepter. For those who don't know what Aghanim Scepter does on Tiny, what it essentially does is it gives him a wide area of effect where he just starts throwing trees. And what's interesting about these trees being thrown is that they actually utilize his auto attack damage, which is why you built a Daedalus afterwards. So you end up being in a situation where these trees being tossed do a tremendous amount of AoE damage, especially with the effect of Daedalus, and then further with the effect of BKB, not only preventing you from getting locked down when you initiate with your Blink Dagger, but providing additional strength and damage, which is additional damage as well, because strength is damage for someone like Tiny. So regardless, that is how the mid Tiny is currently being built. A very high tempo Blink Dagger, Avalanche Toss combination type hero with an Aghanim's Rush into Daedalus to do a tremendous amount of damage. From the carry side, you're still doing the traditional shard, you farm, and then you go into your Silver's Edge, and you just kind of take over the game from that perspective. The major difference is in mid is you're using your blink and being kind of like a bursty type of kind of initiating type hero, whereas on the carry side, you are farming using your Aghanim Shard. So it's a different playstyle approach, but it is still a very interesting take on what Tiny can do in this current meta. Now, if you're anything like me, you probably hate laning against Viper, because Viper is one of the most oppressive offlaners in Dota right now, and that is why he's being picked almost non-stop at high MMR pubs, because he is a hero that can be relied upon to completely ruin the laning stage of the opposing core. And so this build here is going to focus on how you can basically win the laning stage, completely destroy the enemy core's game, and then transition into a pretty decent right-clicking carry later on. Now, there's a few things you need to remember about Viper. First of all, he's very susceptible to getting gone on. He does not trade very well if you get basically jumped on top of, because he does not have the built-in stealth shield of a melee hero. However, poison attack will always create a situation where you're generally going to trade better than the opponent because of the way that it actually stacks and does additional damage. So let's talk about how to get this done in the current meta. So the way he's being built right now is you are taking poison attack up front, a value point of corrosive skin, and nether toxin. Poison attack, an important thing to understand is that you're going to see it here. The cast range actually increases as you level poison attack. So it's so important you focus on that first. You can harass from further away. His move speed is very slow, but in most circumstances you are starting with double circlet because you want the strength. You need the strength because, again, you don't want Viper to get just gone on. If he gets gone on, he dies. So you want the additional strength of the circlets and the iron branches. You build the wraith bands for the additional armor, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go boots because you are extremely slow. You need to be more mobile, and with the boots it allows you to trade better with poison attack. Finally, into a fast Urn of Shadows. With the Urn of Shadows, you are able to stack poison attack with Urn of Shadows, with the right clicks and everything you're doing, and quite frankly, just there's no way anybody can effectively trade with you at this timing. Once you get power treads into D-Lance, the laning stage is more or less over, but you become a very dependable kind of hero that you can roam with smokes with your supports and ensure that you're kind of invading their jungle and taking out the enemy. From there, BKB into his Aghanim Shard, which amplifies the effectiveness of his poison attack, especially when you consider what his level 20 talent does as well. And then what you do is you do go a Hurricane Pike. At this point, you are going to be a ranged damage dealer, but you are still going to be able to have a decent effect on the fights thanks to the impact of poison attack and the break effect of nether toxin. Now, there's a couple different ways to build them, and I do want to kind of bring light to a couple core things here. First of all, there are games where you're going to want to go a Spirit Vessel. There are also games where you're going to want to go a Rod of Ados. Now, one of Viper's main disadvantages is he does not have hard lockdown. He does not have a stun. He does not have a root. So this provides him with a little bit of added utility, while also kind of going really well with nether toxin and poison attack. Moreover, Lotus Orb and Heaven's Halberd are great items as well, especially if you need a stash resistance. And while it's not very common, AC can be helpful, although it's more likely you're going to have a carry that's going to focus on that, because if you are playing from position 3, you're going to probably want one of the utility items in Rod of Ados or Lotus Orb instead. There is an important note to understand about Aether Lens. Now, I know it's kind of getting cut off here, unfortunately, but it improves the cast range of Nether Toxin and Viper Strike, but does not improve the cast range of Poison Attack. So be very aware of that if you're building an Aether Lens, that it will not impact Poison Attack, but it will impact Viper Strike and Nether Toxin. Regardless, Viper position 3 continues to be one of the top meta offlaners in the current meta. There are very few heroes in Dota that have been so consistently locked into a certain position like Mirana. Now, I know you're thinking, Alex, I see Mirana mids every once in a while, and that's fine. And maybe you got that guy that goes Mirana offlane, but it's usually pretty terrible. Mirana position 4 has been one of the most consistent position 4s in Dota for as long as I can remember. And what's interesting about this is that she has a really unreliable stun, but when you land it, that Sacred Arrow does a tremendous amount of work for your team. And if you're new to Dota and you want to play a more complex hero, one that is often seen in the pro meta, Mirana is a great launching point for you because she is a consistently picked high MMR hero while having some nuance and some high level skills as well. So let's talk about the core build for Mirana. So with regards to talents, you're always taking a value point of Sacred Arrow. It's great for runes, great for initial kind of fights and skirmishes. You're taking a value point in Leap as well, simply because you want that added escape, and then you're going right to Starstorm, which allows you to trade incredibly effectively and also clear waves if necessary. With that being said, with Mirana, you are taking stats up front. She does do very good right click damage, has a decent auto attack and some decent range. You are going an Urn of Shadows fast. The reason for this is because as a Mirana, you want to be very active on the map. You want to be rotating, you want to be roaming, you want to be helping mid, helping secure mid bounty runes and mid power runes. You want to be mobile. You also want a magic stick because when you leap, sometimes you're leaping in so you can leap Starstorm, and you want to have that magic stick available, and as a support, it's likely you'll hold this magic wand for the entire game. Now, the Eul Scepter Divinity is extremely important. Not only does it give you the added move speed that you really want, it provides you with a reliable setup for your Sacred Arrow. You use them in the air, they'll go up in the air, and as they come down, you throw your arrow, and as they hit the ground, they get hit by the arrow so that you can lock them and stun them. It makes the stun a little more reliable. It also gives you a chance to dispel any silences placed upon you so that you can leap away. Moreover, you'll notice that Leap has 3 charges, and the charges kind of come back over time. So what you can do is, in a situation where you don't have your leap charge, or you're utilizing your leap charges in certain ways, you can actually use Eul Scepter defensively to buy time for your leap so that you can move out of the battle and disengage. So Eul Scepter has a lot of utility for someone like Mirana. From there, Arcane Boots is super valuable. She does require a ton of magical kind of mana usage into Wraith Pact. That's right, Wraith Pact is what's being built on position for Mirana right now. It's simply really good. She is extremely mobile. She is survivable thanks to Leap. The result of this is that her Vlad's aura as part of Wraith Pact is very useful because she tends to stay alive for a relatively long period of time in a fight, especially when you consider the elusiveness of something like Moonlight Shadow. So Wraith Pact continues to be built on Mirana. From there are a couple things that you can consider. If you want to disassemble the Arcane Boots, you can disassemble them into something like a Lotus Orb. If you've disassembled them, you can consider something like a Boots of Bearing. You could even go something like Guardian Greaves. More commonly, however, is upgrading the Spear Vessel and getting something like a Force Staff so you can have some added utility for your team. The Agh's Scepter and Shard are more reserved for kind of like games where you're absolutely going insane, or for core Mirana. It's not seen very often on position 4, though it's seen from time to time. With that being said, Mirana position 4 continues to be a staple of the pro meta. I'm actually super excited to talk about Treant position 5. Now, he can be played position 4 as well, but currently, especially in the pro meta, he's being played more predominantly in position 5. What's interesting about this is that we talked about this last week and the week before, where we talked about Warlock and Witch Doctor and heroes that have heals built in. The fact that salves have been nerfed have created a situation where heroes that have inherent healing have more value during the laning stage, and this meta in Dota really revolves around laning. So with that being said, Treant finds himself in an interesting position, and he's being played in a very interesting way. So let's talk about that right now. First of all, Nature's Grasp. You always take Nature's Grasp at 1 with Leech Seed 2 and 3. This allows you to trade really effectively, especially with the slow and damage over time of Leech Seed, especially considering you're starting with an Orb of Venom. From there, though, you are going to be running through your Living Armor. This is about the point in the game where towers start to become contested. Living Armor helps to slow down the advance of the opponent while providing essential heal and armor to allies and towers throughout the map. Now, what you want to do is you want to be very aggressive with Treant Protector in the laning stage. You are taking stats. You do have an Orb of Venom. You got some mana and health regeneration. Sorry, not mana regeneration. You got some instant mana and some regeneration from the Enchanted Mango. But what you're going to be doing is you are going to be blocking their large camp with the Sentry Ward or dewarding your camp. You are going to be going Magic Stick. Probably take, well, you're going to be doing Wand because you got to build a Locket. But Magic Stick into Arcane Boots, into the Meme Hammer. Now, the important thing about the meme hammer to understand, first of all, it has an absolutely phenomenal build-up for support. It gives everything that Treant Protector wants in the health and mana regeneration, but also it can be cast from the tree line without actually revealing Treant, which can be super valuable, both in team fights if you want to get a wide area stun and damage over time, but also when you're pushing towers. And that actually is fantastic because once you build Holy Locket, you're able to kind of push towers while keeping your towers up. You start to play this macro game. And if you get rich and you build an Egg Scepter, you are the king of macro Dota as a Treant Protector. But this is what's interesting. You actually build an Aghanim's Shard at this point. This allows you to move invisibly and super fast through the tree line, which allows you to use the meme hammer with more effectiveness. Moreover, you're then going your Blink Dagger, which allows you to blink and initiate fights with Overgrowth, which is a BKB piercing spell, immunity piercing ability that roots enemies in place for 4 to 5 seconds. Now, there is a meme version of this where before you go Blink Dagger, you actually go Glimmer Cape. Glimmer Cape. Why Glimmer Cape? Because what you can do is with the shard, you're invisible in the tree line, you glimmer in the tree line, you run out so you're invisible, and then you overgrowth. So you kind of really don't need the Blink Dagger. And then everyone's like, what's happening with this tree? You drop all your spells, and then you Glimmer Cape back out after the 14-second cooldown. You run into the trees and you're invisible again. So there's this like kind of in and out process of Treant Protector, and then you just heal bot with living armor because it's a 15-second cooldown, especially since you'll have a Holy Locket, so you have another active to heal your allies. It's this really fun way of playing Treant where you're hiding in the tree line, glimmering out, overgrowth, Nature's Grass, Leech Seed, heal somebody, Glimmer Cape again, run back to the tree line and be invisible, and then do the whole thing over again, because they literally have near identical cooldown times, which is pretty funny. But anyways, so Treant Protector is in a really cool spot, especially as a position 5. If you're a position 4, you might be able to pull off something like the Egg Scepter as well, depending on how the game's going. But Blink Dagger, again, Dagger initiations with Overgrowth continue to be a great combination with Treant Protector. Thank you so much for watching, and a very special thank you to all of our wonderful subscribers. We'll see you in the next Dota 2 video.